Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's the 4th of January 2022, my first broadcast of 2022, and here we are with an HP laptop with its feet in the air. Let me turn it around. I was just checking some things here, and yeah, this is it. This is a machine that was brought to me for a hard drive upgrade and RAM upgrade. Well, that's not what the customer said. What the customer said is it's running slow. I know it's an older laptop, but it's in good condition and I like it. Is there anything we can do? I think it might have a virus. Well, it kind of had a virus in the sense that it had an old 5400 spin Toshiba hard drive and it had 4 gigs of RAM. It's kind of like a virus. But I ended up taking it apart and I watched another YouTube video on how to take it apart. Put it all back together again. It's got no sound. Everything is perfect, but I think in my haste of putting it back together, I think I left off the little cable that connects the little speaker to the little board. Unfortunately, what that means for me is I have to completely disassemble the entire laptop, which means pulling the bottom off, pulling the top off, pulling the middle out. Actually, I may not have to pull the middle out. Once I get the top and the bottom off of it, if I can see the cable, if the cable didn't get trapped underneath the logic board, then I should be able to just pull it out and plug it back in. But this, on many other laptops, is a very simple job. On many other laptops, including other laptops that HP makes, there's an access panel, typically at the bottom of the laptop, where you can remove a couple screws and a little piece of plastic door opens, and that exposes your RAM sockets, or socket, as the case may be. And then there's usually another access panel or a slide-out tray on the side of the laptop where the screws are underneath. You remove 1 or 2 screws and then that exposes the hard disk drive. And it's wonderful when you get a machine like that to work on because it's easy money. You don't have to worry about screwing anything up like forgetting to plug a cable back in. And this had about 6 or 7 or 8 different cables that had to be unplugged just to get to the RAM and the hard drive. You pretty much, to get to the RAM, you have to remove the logic board out of it. And it's just a really, really bad design. It would be like if HP made cars and the cheaper model cars came with the tires welded on instead of, lug nuts so you can change them. It's as though they thought that the hard disk drive and the RAM would never ever go bad or want to be upgraded. It's preposterous, especially when it's such a low-end machine. It's only an i3. Now, because I've already had this apart once before, I feel pretty confident now I can take it apart on camera and sort of find a silver lining to this this cloud to demonstrate how it comes apart. The video I watched, the gentleman had the same model of laptop, but his only had 1 RAM socket, and he thought it had 2. And when I opened this one, well, first of all, I check it with a free utility called CPU-Z, and CPU-Z said there were 2 sockets and 1 was empty. When I opened it up, there's 2 sockets. When he opened his up, I don't know why he thought there were 2. His laptop opens up exactly the same as this one, but he only had 1 RAM socket. So HP can't even decide how crappy they want to make their machines. They make them crappy or crappier, apparently. However, I've seen some of the HP Pro machines, Pro laptops. I think they're a professional line. Those are super easy to work on. I was shocked because when a friend of mine said, "Hey, I've got this HP Pro laptop, would you look at it for me?" I went, Then I saw it and went, wait, this is an HP? This is actually quite good. I would own one of these. So then I was hopeful that I would encounter other HP laptops like that, but no. No, we're right back to where we were. So HP, horrible products, that's what that stands for, I'm pretty sure. If it doesn't, that's what it stands for in my book. And the laptop's in really good shape. I mean, given its age, it's in good shape. Now, some people have said, well, it looks like from the thumbnail, the laptop's already been disassembled. When I had it disassembled initially, I took some pictures for my own perspective, right? To be able to say, okay, that's how this went in and that's how the other thing went in. And then I thought, well, I've got the pictures, I'll use it as a thumbnail. So I'm taking this apart now for a second time. I didn't want to take it apart the first time on camera because I had to watch somebody else on video and follow along with them because this is very confusing how this opens. It's very, very, very confusing. So we'll get to it here. And let's take a look at what we've got going on in the chat room. Hello to everybody joining us. I see there's Matthew Camp and Mark Baggett and D Bullet Thrower, as well as Michael Dane, the man. Eddie Sawyers and Danny Hartline are joining us, along with Aaron Warner and Jim Maloney. And there's Wayne Pierce and Robert Chakowski. Welcome in Chris Chase and Symmetran 1, Ed Schwartz, and Bob Connors. Good to see everybody. Kenny Whidden, welcome in, and Mr. TJP Coins and Jokes. Sunket Neek and Daniel Navarro saying hello. And let's see who else we have in here. Justin Miller, Jim KJ3N, and GM, as well as Edgar Sains and Greg Guy. John Jack Wilson joins us. Welcome in, Jack. Disney Fan says hello, and it's his birthday. Well, happy birthday, Disney Fan 95. Hey, there's Rick Lakes. Welcome in, everybody. Christopher Raybone says hello. Abdul Azim Patel says, what's up? John Venturi says hello, and Mike Paradin says hello. There's John Williams and Rob Gurley and Kira H. and Brian Daniel and Jorge Tapiz. And John Alois Sr. and David Ice. David just contributed $2. Thanks, David. And there's Photo Mix Media saying hello. And Manis Batani. All right, guys. So hello to all of you, and more that are coming in as we start this video. Got a little bit of an early start, and wanted to get the preface out of the way. So we're going to start by just simply removing all the screws we can find off the bottom of this thing, which is a pretty simple step. Doesn't require a whole lot of help to figure out that every single one of these holes has a screw in it, and we need to take those out. And that's where this Japanese industrial standard JIS screwdriver with a magnetized tip comes in handy. I definitely won't use a power driver on a laptop. It's, first of all, the bit is too small to seat properly into the screws. And secondly, the driver is just way too powerful. It's too big for the size of the screws. They do sell smaller mechanized screwdrivers. I don't do the work often enough to justify that. So I did have one for some time, but it took batteries, and the batteries were seemingly always dead whenever I needed it. Hey, John Jack Wilson contributes $50, and he says, just because. Right on, Jack. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my magnifying glasses so I can see what's going on here. I've got the other camera set up. I don't know if it's going to be a terrible angle or not. Let's find out what happens when I go to that camera. But maybe you'll get a better idea of where I'm taking these screws out. But essentially, it doesn't matter where you start, but we want to remove all these super tiny screws. Now, all of these screws are the same that we're taking out of the bottom, except for the hinge screws. Those, you'll notice, are a bit longer. So we're going to just make a little stack. I usually just kind of line them up in the order I took them out. And you'll see I'm just kind of going up and down, right to left. We'll go right up the middle here. They got a little bit of Loctite on them. I'm not sure what that one's for, but that's got to come out. You'll see they're all the same. Got another one right here. I'm not giving myself enough room. I'll push these back a little bit. And this one here. It looks like I've got 3 more. One here. One here. And one here. Now, of course, before you work on a laptop, it's always good practice to avoid any sort of damage to the electrical systems that we release and remove the battery. I'm not sure which way is lock and unlock. Let's try that. All right, there's the battery. That battery doesn't have much life left in it. I think that's the original battery. The gentleman who owns this always keeps it plugged in. This screw over here, there's a real shallow screw that holds the DVD drive in, and we can just pull that out now. And we'll set that over here. And underneath these two rubber feet, there are two long screws that are the hold the hinges in, or secure the hinges. And we'll just use a real fine straight blade screwdriver and gently pry those up. And those came up nice and easy because I just had them off the other day. Boy, I'll tell you, nothing chaps my hide more than having to make a stupid mistake like this. You know, sometimes I guess I'm probably harder on myself than any customer would ever be, but got really, really mad at myself for this. This is a big job, and you really need to pay attention. If you're going to take on a job like this, it's really important you pay very close attention, or you may end up taking it apart numerous times in order to get it right. Bob Connors contributes $10. He goes, here's for a 6-pack of Coke or Gatorade. Right on, Bob, thank you. That'll more than cover the cost of a 6-pack. Hey, David Kane with $10 says, hey, Kerry, I got a job as a tech a few months ago, and I love it. But sometimes I don't understand people's logic. I saw someone use baby powder to cool their CPU, and needless to say, that was a mess. Yeah. Well, let me go back to camera one. Yeah, David, when you work, especially in retail for doing tech, I think it's a wonderful experience. It's going to turn you into an amazing tech. If you stick with it at least a year, you're going to see some stuff, and you're going to see some attitudes. And you should make notes of it, whether you write it on Facebook or you keep a diary, because those are going to be great stories you're going to want to share, just like this whole baby powder story. It'd be nice to know what led up to that repair. Yeah, you're just getting started. Just you wait and see what's coming through that door. It keeps it interesting. Bill Binder contributes £2. He says, Happy New Year. Hey, Happy New Year, Bill, and everybody out there. Thanks, you guys, for continuing to support the channel. Now, I believe I've got all the screws out of here. Let me just double check one more time. I think I got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, is that one? Oh, yeah, that was the DVD drive. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 screws. So now, got to flip this over. Oh, these were the little plastic pieces here. We'll get to that when I put it back together. I'll explain that. But these are the pieces that go on the bottom of the hinges. Get those out of the way. Next thing you got to do is you've got to take apart the top of the laptop, and it's hidden behind the keyboard. And I really hate when laptop manufacturers do this. Drives me out of my mind. I understand needing to do this if you needed to replace a power board or a logic board, but needing to do this to replace RAM and a hard drive is ridiculous. And you'll see there's one of those ribbon cables I was talking about. And you notice there's no access to any hard drive or RAM. It's just not here. And there's several ribbon cables that have to be removed here. And the way this works, and again, we can see if we can go to a close-up on camera 2. There's a small black bar running right across the top. And if I lift up on it, I might even just want to use my fingers because I don't want to use too much force. It swings up, and then the keyboard comes out with its ribbon cable here. And again, we can just find a place to put all your parts. All right? We still have 2 more right down here at the very bottom. We've got what I think is the touchpad and probably the power button or LEDs here coming down and connecting here. So these, same thing, it's a little plastic piece that lifts up, just like that. And then there's this blue tape, and you pull on that, and the little ribbon cable will fall right out. The other thing you'll notice, if you've got a sharp eye, is here on the base, on this silver plate, it's got little arrows indicating which screws you need to take out. It says M 2.5 by 5, which apparently is the screw size. And it says it wants us to take out this one, this one, this one, and this one, and that's all there is to take out, but there's a lot of other holes. So when you go to put it back together, having this information so you don't go here and you don't put one here or here, this indicates where you're going to put the screws back. But obviously, if you see a screw, you have to take it out, and this is where taking photos can help. And then we've got some tape here. I don't know why we have tape here. I didn't notice that the first time I took it apart. So we'll go ahead and remove these screws. And as I mentioned, there's 5. We're going to start down in this corner. And I'll keep these over here because I'm going to use these first. So there's 2. These are all the same size. And the screwdriver is a perfect fit for these types of screws. Very similar to what you'd use on an M2 drive. One, two, three, 4. That's it. Now, in theory, if I recall correctly, that's all I need. And now it's a question of separating the top from the bottom. Now, if you have an older laptop or if you're heavy-handed, you can crack the plastic or the plastic clips that hold it together. So to do this, they do make spudger tools that are designed for, typically used in tablets and smartphones, although a lot of smartphones are glued together now, as are, even the Microsoft Surface Pro. It's all glued together. So I'm not even sure spudgers are going to help you get it apart. So I'm not doing any of that kind of work. That's way too complicated, too much of a time investment for me personally. So I'll let other people do those. They can have all the work they want with that. And I need to take a look at this and figure out the best way to get it apart. Sometimes you just start right back here at the battery. And if you're careful, one of the important things you got to remember is if something's not releasing, don't force it. And pulling it up like this is a good way to break those tabs. Now, this little screwdriver will work, but it may mar the edges. So you got to be very, very careful. See, something is holding this in right here, and I know what it is now. There's 2 additional screws I forgot about. They're little teeny tiny screws, and they're right up here at the edge. They're above the DVD drive. The DVD drive covers those, and that's one of the reasons why the DVD drive has to come out. So right down here at the bottom. So remember, I was experiencing some resistance pulling it apart, so rather than force it, I would break it if I would have done that. I'm taking another look at what might be holding it closed. So if we look very, very closely here, there's a very unique and tiny little screw right here. It's very different from the others. And there's 2 of them. They're very shallow. All right, now let's try that again and see if I can get this thing to open up. Well, I'll tell you what, if I had this thing all put together perfectly and then I ended up damaging it because I had to take it back apart, I would be so mad with myself. Now it should just pop right up. See how I'm sliding my thumb around it? So I'm kind of using my thumb as like a little spudger tool, letting my fingernail do the work. And then here's the top piece. Now, at this point, and I don't want to set this on top of the screws, so I got to find more room to put stuff. If you look in here now, you'll see I've got the solid state drive in there. We'll go back to camera 2. Solid state drive right here, that's all done. This is the speaker here, and this is where the speaker is supposed to connect. And that's the cable I left off, right there. See the cable? It's right, that's the cable. And I was supposed to connect it here, and I overlooked it. Now there's 2 screws, and they've got little arrows, one here, one here. And then this whole logic board comes out, and there's still more cables connected to it all through here. This is your Wi-Fi card. All that has to come off. Then on the underside is where your RAM sockets are. It's just a terrible design, and furthermore, completely avoidable, because you can see where the hard drive is and where the RAM would be. And there's no reason HP couldn't have put a little access door right under here, right under the hard drive. And they could have also added an access door right over by this vent for the RAM. So it's just no good excuse to not have done that. I'm hearing something rattle. I'm trying to figure out what it is. I guess it's just this plastic here. All right, so now the tricky part for me is, can I remove this wire, or did it get jammed under the logic board? No, there it is. It's right there. And this is why I wasn't getting sound. And it's a pretty easy job. We're just going to take that little wire. See if I can get you a little closer view of this. Let's take a little walk with it so you guys can see better. So where we're looking is, I'm sure you can see that now. So that has to go back in there. And, one little simple mistake and the whole thing has to come back apart. Now, thankfully, this was all fresh on my mind because this was not a straightforward removal process for me anyway. So this piece right here, this is your speaker here. And I guess this must be the other speaker, and they're wired together. And then this connector only goes in one way. And there's no way to test the work you've done. Like, let's say the RAM I got was bad or incompatible. There's no way for me to test it without reassembling everything. Granted, I don't necessarily have to put all the screws back in, but what a hassle, especially compared to other laptop designs I'm accustomed to. So all that had to be done just for that one little cable. Now I get to put it all back together again and make sure I hook up those ribbon cables correctly, otherwise I'll be taking it back apart again. So that's fun. Isn't that fun? Isn't fun. All right, so let's put this piece back on. The first thing you're going to want to do is set this down. And then we're going to push it until it clicks back into place. Sometimes those corners are pretty tough. Push down on all the edges. Okay, and with that pushed down, I can reattach these little ribbon cables. So once again, I'm going to slide the, you can grab it by the blue tape, lift that little black lever up and try and put the cable in straight. You don't want it in on an angle, or you may not get a good connection, and then you find your trackpad doesn't work or the thing doesn't power on. And you can see there's even a little bump in the cable where they've made the cable just a little bit too long. And it doesn't quite line up ideally with where it should be. So making sure it's pushed all the way forward and straight, we can lower that little black lever back down on it, and that locks it in place. And we're going to repeat that with this one. This is for the trackpad. And we'll just line that up. And it should slide in really easily. Again, pushing it forward. Keep pushing it forward. Make sure you keep it straight. And then close down the little plastic lever. Then we can put the 4 screws back in that were here. There was one here. Don't over tighten these, folks. Get them snug. There's one here. one here. And finally, one over here. Okay, now the keyboard can go back on. Ribbon cable, once again, it's got to go back in. Just like these little tiny ones, it's the same thing, only much bigger. These are a little harder to keep straight, but you certainly have a lot more to hold on to. And that's going to go in. You'll see how that folds under. You don't want to put it in upside down. So we're going to have to come in, unfortunately, towards you there. So you're not going to get much of a view of this. And make sure you line it up exactly right. Otherwise, you'll be doing it again. Like I said, you can't really test it until you get it all back together. So I'm having a little bit of resistance with getting it seated. I think right about there is going to look good. And you'll see it's already bent from the factory to fold. And then there's little tabs on the keyboard. You can push this side in and then just kind of run your finger across the top and it should just lock in. There it goes. Okay. Back over to the other side now. We can put all those screws back. We can start with these hinges. That's just going to go right back on. There's a couple of teeth that have to go on. These slide forward and then in. Just like that. And then using one of those long screws, we'll put that back. And stick the rubber foot back on it. It should still be sticky enough to stay on there. And we're going to repeat with the other side. And there's those two little tiny funky screws that go above the lip that sits above the DVD drive. And once these are in, we can grab the DVD drive. It's contoured to meet the exact same, if you're not sure if it goes in this way or this way, just take a look at the contour of the door. And when you slide it in, well, first of all, it won't slide in the wrong way. If you try to, it just won't go. So again, without forcing anything, turn it around, try again. It should slide in with no effort. Then it locks into place. Now we can put back all of the screws we had previously taken out. They don't have to go back in exactly the same hole, but since I've laid them out in this pattern, it makes it super easy for me to put them right back just the way they came out. Certainly no harm in that. It's a nice habit to get into, I have found, in PC repair, because they're not always the same. Now, I've made this job look easy. I can tell you that me taking this apart didn't happen anywhere near as fast because I was uncertain of what I was doing, and so I was going very slow and being very cautious. But now that I've had it apart, I've thrown caution to the wind because it's familiar now. Last one. Okay. Put the the battery back in. If you can't figure out how the battery goes back in, you probably shouldn't be taking apart the laptop. Now this battery's not good, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the power cable and plug it in, and I don't want to show the customer's screen to everybody, so let me just check and see if it's got sound and we can all hear it. And if it's got sound, well, then we're good to go. The problem with working on customer machines on a YouTube live video is the customer may have photos or desktop icons or personal identifiable information that they weren't anticipating, you know, somebody showing it live on YouTube. So for courtesy and respect to the customer, I'm going to keep the laptop facing me. It's booting right now, and you know, when I hit the power button, it powered up. That means that cable's on. I've got the desktop up, which I can show you. Desktop is up. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. I'm going to try and log in. Trackpad is working, yeah, okay. And I don't hear anything yet. I'm a little nervous. I hope the speakers work. Let's take a look at where our sound is. Hey, look at that. Or rather, listen to that. We have audio now. So the whole repair job is done. It should have been done right the first time, and it's one of the reasons I don't like to take on laptops, because it's pretty rare two of them are the same unless you work in corporate America, because corporate America will buy the same model or models for the entire company. And if you're working at that company, you're going to see the same desktop and laptop models over and over and over again. You'll get to be an expert at them. You'll be able to take them apart blindfolded. But when you work as a field service tech, you know, working on whatever rolls in the door, well, thank goodness for YouTube. As I mentioned, I relied on another viewer's videos, or video rather, to guide me through the disassembly, and I should put a link to his video in the show notes or the video notes of this video, so I give him proper credit for that. And yeah, it's much faster now. I have already previously verified it sees all 16 gigs of RAM. Sometimes older laptops like this, even if they have two RAM sockets, doesn't necessarily mean they'll see whatever RAM you throw in there. There may be RAM size limitations, and some of that may be based on BIOS. But overall, I think this customer should be able to get, you know, based on how they use it, I think they're good throughout Windows 10 lifespan. When Windows 10 support ends in October of 2025, this laptop will be about 13 to 15 years old, which is way old for a laptop. But it's in really good shape, and he doesn't use it every day, and if he continues to take care of it and use it as infrequently, if his pattern of use doesn't change, then this laptop should last throughout Windows 10 life cycle. After that, when he's forced into Windows 11 or 12 or whatever, he'll need to buy a new laptop for two reasons. One, this one will be a security concern, and two, he won't be able to put the latest OS on it, nor would you want to. It would be way too slow. But this saves him some money for now, postpones that upgrade for a few years, and it'll keep him happy. A repair like this, you figure as a 960 gig solid state drive in there and two 8 gig SO-DIMM DDR3L RAM modules. Each one of those, I'd estimate about $50 for the RAM, and it's about $90 for the solid state drive. I'm only going to charge him, wait a minute, is this a 500 gig? If this is a 500 gig drive, it's only $50. 500 gig solid state drive should be about 50 bucks. Let me just check. I think I put a 500 in here. Because now that I'm saying it out loud, I think, yeah, it's a 500 gig. So $50 on the drive, $50 on the RAM. Normally labor like this would be $125, and then I'm going to throw a 1-year license of Malwarebytes on there for him. he had McAfee on here, which really just brought this thing to a crawl, just a snail's pace. And the uninstall didn't fully remove it, so I had to clean that out of there. Then I ran Malwarebytes on it. I'm going to go ahead and put the first year on there for him. And so altogether, I think I want to charge him $190. I think will be a fair price for labor, 1 year of Malwarebytes, 16 gigs of RAM, 500 gig solid state drive, plus the cloning of the data, plus the cleanup of the operating system and a tune-up of it as well. I think he's getting a good deal. But he did drive across town to drop it off to me. I mean, he drove a good 45 minutes to get it over here. And he'll drive that same route, and it's 45 minutes each way. So he's going to spend 3 hours in the car between dropping it off and picking it up. And since I'm not the one doing that, especially with this Phoenix traffic, I'll discount it since he's not torturing me to make me sit in the car for 3 hours back and forth. And especially when there's road closures, accidents, and just everybody's going somewhere in Phoenix. Nobody stays home. And of course the hospitals are completely booked solid. There's no like ICU beds available, or there's very few right now. People don't care that there's a pandemic going around. They just act like it's not there, and I guess they think if they don't acknowledge it, it doesn't exist. And then the news follows up with stories of deniers who are dying. And, you know, the wheel goes around and around. So especially for January and February of 2022, I want to try and not go out as much as possible because of how contagious they say that this variant is. And well, I've been vaccinated. I don't have time to be down. I have so much work to do, guys. Speaking of work to do, I'm going to have a bunch of systems up for sale, 9th gen, 10th gen, and 11th gen. A bunch of like i5 10th gens. And I've just bought some cheap cases, and I'll do what I can to film me just building in these cheap cases. And I'm trying to get these systems done as cheaply as possible so I can offer them for sale at a very aggressive price point for viewers out there who want one. And as always, I can only ship within the United States. There's issues with taxes and import fees, as well as shipping delays and the likelihood of damage when it's being shipped overseas, that it's just not worth it for you. I'm not going to rip you off. I'm not going to take your money and then sell you something that arrives damaged that you have to pay import fees on, plus shipping on. And then when you get it, it's got parts rattling around in the box because the shippers just tossed it around. And then you waited forever to get it. And then you're mad at me because I can't help you. What am I supposed to do? Hop on a plane? So it's just a bad idea. Please don't ask me to ship outside of the United States. You might as well just poke yourself in the eye and save yourself the time and money if you still want to endure the pain. So that's why it's like that, and that's the way it will remain. But if I can help you in the USA, specifically the 48 lower states, Alaska and Hawaii, we're right back to shipping problems again. But for everyone else, you'll have to reach out to me via email and let me know what it is you're looking for and what your budget is. These machines, they're about $125 to ship FedEx ground. They take anywhere from 3 to 7 days to go pretty much, from one coast to the other. FedEx has been really good about shipping. There's no graphics cards. Everything I sell has integrated graphics. We've already had 3 graphics cards arrive damaged, and I still have to do an RMA for Madi's graphics card. And that's not fun. And that delays everything. I still have damaged RAM I'm waiting back from Corsair to finish up Raul's machine. If you recall, his computer was completely demolished by shipping because it wasn't packed properly, and I had to move all of the parts. I had to completely dismantle it and reassemble it into another case. And the cases, those 200Rs that don't have Windows or RGB, they've been sold out. They recently went back in stock again, and I grabbed as many as I could, and then boom, they're back out of stock again. Trying to find a case that has 2 USB 3.0s up top with no glass panel and no RGB is difficult. They're still out there, but they're hard to find. And when you do find them, they're about $100 or $85. The Corsair 200Rs are like $65, and when they go on sale, they're $55. I hope that Corsair noticed how quickly they sold out of those 200Rs. I think they were in stock 3 days. And I hope that sends a message to who's ever responsible, whether it's a product manager, to understand that offering cases that don't have RGB and glass is a good consideration for business folks and adults. There are a lot of children out there and adults with the childlike mindset that really like those lights. But it has nothing to do with performance, reliability, or security. It's just a complete waste of money. And if you want to understand just how much you're being gouged for the RGB, take a look at, look at DDR4 RAM. You go to Amazon or go to Newegg or Microage, wherever you shop, and look what the cheapest kit of 16 gigs of RAM sells for. Just 16 gigs of RAM, 2 sticks of 8. Sort by the lowest price, and pay close attention to the speed of the RAM, all right? And note the price. Now find the same equivalent of 2 8 sticks of DDR4 at the same speed with RGB, and you're going to see somewhere between a $20 and $40 price difference. It's exceptional. So basically, you can get 16 gigs of RAM, 2 sticks of 8 for about $50. But if you want RGB, like Newegg recently had that Trident Royal Z RAM on sale for $99.99. It's twice the price. For what? For what? Adding LEDs doesn't add much expense in the manufacturing, and they're not expensive, and it's not complicated of a process to put it together. It's a way that the manufacturers make a gross amount of profit. And why it's so offensive to me is I've been in business a long time, and in the 90s, and maybe even the early 2000s, you could make 25% profit margin on a computer. Today, they're razor-thin profit margins, and so what companies do now is they put lights on it, and then they add 20, 30% profit because it has lights. Sometimes they add 50% profit, and the public is buying it. So of course the manufacturers love that. The stockholders, the shareholders love it. It's just throwing money at lights. It's the strangest behavior of humans it's not the strangest I've seen, but just the amount of people that are doing it is insane. Now, you will see there are some RGB systems I build here, and I will do that because I have a YouTube channel, and it's going to be showcased to thousands and thousands of people. If it's just sitting in your bedroom, do you have thousands of people that are going to see it? And how long is it going to be before that gets old for you? And when I put RGB in this system over here, I started adjusting the lights. And I was trying to, first of all, I wanted to see what my options were. And then I wanted to decide what pattern looked best and what color or what cycle of colors. And once I realized I had just spent 2 hours and I had gotten nothing done because I got caught up, my mind got all caught up in playing with the lights and trying to make it just right, I was so mad at myself. What a complete waste of time. And then I had a build about 2 years ago where after I installed Windows 10 and I started getting updates, the whole machine blue screened. And it was a brand new build. And it turned out it was the ASUS Aura software. And that's why you don't see me install any of the motherboard software anymore. I had to reinstall Windows 3 times. This was on a live video about 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. Until I determined it was the ASUS Aura software that was causing the blue screen after the Windows update, and that there was a newer version of the Aura software that fixed it. Now that's a really stupid reason to get hung up on a repair and to tell other customers, you got to call them and explain to them why their computer's not ready. And I'm not talking about the one I was fixing. I was talking about the one I was supposed to do after that. But there wasn't any time in that day to start on the next customer's system because I got caught up in this stupid RGB stuff. So for home users, it's all well and good. For businesses, you won't find a big corporation that's running any RGB or liquid cooling or glass panels. If you shop for computers at Best Buy, most of the Dells and HPs are not going to have glass panels. I don't even think they make one with, they probably do have one with liquid cooling, but customers in general that shop for Dells and HPs, they don't want that stuff. They're looking for, bottom line price because they know it's not going to last forever and they don't want to put a lot of money into it. But it's your money, and if you want to spend it on useless nonsense, don't let me get in your way. But as a businessman, I have to tell you, It's something I'm not comfortable selling to customers because I have to gouge the customer because I'm getting gouged. I don't want to gouge my customers. I don't want to, make the kind of money that, not like that. I'd rather make the money for my skill than to just add some lights to something and tell you it's worth more. But, that's just me and my stupid morals, and that's why I'm not a millionaire, I guess, because I have those morals. There's a lot of people richer than me that have no problem with it. And there's a lot of people with a lot less money than I have who have a lot more RGB than I have. The great thing about being self-employed is I can turn down jobs that I feel are going to be support nightmares or are going to be very time-consuming, that they might monopolize how many people I can help in one day. They can monopolize me, and then I can't help as many people. I'd rather help 4 people in one day than to help one person in one day if the pay is the same. You understand what I'm saying? So again, morals and ethics are what's keeping me broke, and not broke, but it's keeping me from getting rich. I'm absolutely certain that I should be farming that out to a 16-year-old kid in high school or something and letting him hook up all the RGB. At this point right now, I have PhotoRay helping with the cable management on these RGB computers. The cable management is a nightmare. And it's as a reminder, it's what's holding the big beast build back is they didn't give us everything for the RGB fans. Everything is sold a la carte. And it's extraordinarily expensive for what you're getting. When you think about what $60 can get you with an RGB controller, that can buy 16 gigs of RAM and lunch, which is far more useful. I can give endless examples of this. The cable management, the average time PhotoRay spends is about 2 hours per system, but I've seen him work as long as 4 hours where the cable management was there was a lot of RGB cabling. And I'm glad he's got the patience for it, because I don't. And this is not why I became a technician. It wasn't so I can install plumbing on liquid coolers, worry about leaking, or deal with 8 million zip ties with 3 times the amount of wires because somebody wants something to look pretty. I'm not opposed to doing it. But when there are other clients that have real problems where their systems don't work and their life is in crisis or the business is down, that obviously, or it should be obvious, that's going to take a priority for me because that's real. That's a real problem. Whereas the RGB, liquid cooling stuff, that's a self-invented problem. It's a self-inflicted expense. And for people who can afford that, I really should bill them for it. I really should bill them more for it because, if they've got money to throw away, they should throw some my way. I'm so focused on saving people money, it doesn't occur to me that it's like if you owned a car repair shop and you did oil changes and somebody rolls in an Aston Martin or a Rolls Royce and you're just charging $60 for an oil change no matter what rolls in, you're an idiot. Because no one's going to do a Rolls Royce or an Aston Martin oil change for $60. Ain't going to happen. And you'd probably lose money if you charge that to do it. You're better off saying, I don't work on those kind of cars here, or charge appropriately. People that have the money to afford that kind of a car can afford the maintenance. It's like somebody says, what's the gas mileage? Well, if you have to ask, that's not the car for you. So that's just business, man. That's all it is. It's just business. And it stinks sometimes when customers really want to waste their money and they insist that you waste your time with something completely unnecessary. For me, it does, when I know there are people with real problems waiting for my time to be available. So that's something I struggle with. I'm not going to have a choice on many of the builds I've got coming up other than to have RGB on them, because that's the cases I can get are all RGB. That's it. So if I'm going to do the RGB case, it probably has RGB fans. It's not like throwing it that much further at this point to throw in RGB RAM. You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like it's wrong to not put it in there. But at the end of the day, I'll let the customers decide, and I'll buy, whatever RAM I can get that's a good value. That margin is just incredible because they add lights. And I just can't believe so many people buy into it. I don't know. I must have been, I guess people today have more money than I had because I can't see that's how I would spend it. I've had a couple of people reach out and ask me if I had some secrets to getting a video card. And I said, look, you can buy a video card. You can go to eBay. You can go to Newegg. They have video cards, but not at the price you want to pay. And this is the biggest problem people have in their lives, And it's like, gaming is an expensive luxury. Nobody needs a Rolls Royce and nobody needs a Rolex watch. So to complain about how much money they are suggests to me you can't afford it. When I was growing up, I used to go to the arcade. You know what I would have given to have an arcade at home? If I could take home a Galaga, one of those big Galaga machines, those were about $3,000 in 1980s money. I was making $3.35 an hour for minimum wage, and the government was taking a good 25% of taxes out of that, as they do. And then I had to pay for clothes and gas and food and rent and electricity. Didn't have to pay for a cell phone because we didn't have any. Maybe a pager. But at the end of the week, there wasn't enough money to have anything left over. So when I was in my 40s, I finally made enough money to buy one of those Galaga machines, and I've got a video of it here. But I had to wait nearly 30 years, 25 years, before I could afford it. And the message to you is you might have to wait too, but your wait shouldn't be that long. It's rumored that we should start seeing some normalcy next year. So I told you last year, I said I was predicting there's no way in 2021 we're going to see a return of regular prices on graphics cards. And I didn't know at the beginning of 2021 how long it was going to last, but I felt very confidently we weren't going to see anything happen in 2021. Now I'm going to tell you, in 2022, things have gotten about 15%, 20% better. However, it's still going to be this entire year, I'm predicting, of more graphics card shortages and high prices. I think by the first quarter of 2023, things will start to normalize unless something else drastic happens with the pandemic. But provided that, let's say we get through the worst of this in 2 months, this current Omicron variant, that's what they're predicting, 2 months. So now we're into March. And that's a best case scenario. We'll have to wait and see what happens and if there's other variants and how those progress. Because that's impacting people working, it's impacting distribution, it's impacting manufacturing, and there's other fabrication units being built. TSMC and Intel are building fabrication units here in Arizona. Intel's building 2, TSMC's building 1. Those will go online in about 2 years. So by 2024, things should start getting mass produced and we don't have to rely on distribution over the sea when we're manufacturing here. So the good news is it's in progress and it's getting better. But unless you have a lot of money, you're probably going to have to do what the rest of us are doing, and that is wait. The good news is gaming is a luxury. It's not a necessity. And if you start saving your money and you're willing to overpay for a graphics card, you can get one sooner than the rest of us. But if you want a good deal on it, it's just like with cars and houses here in America. Trying to buy a car right now, they're about 30% higher than what they're worth. And that's assuming you can find one. And then on top of that, houses are marked up somewhere around 30 to 40% over what they're worth. And that's assuming you can find one and you can qualify for it. All of this will settle down in 2023. It has to. It can't continue this way indefinitely. That bubble is going to pop. So we've got another sort of tight belt tightening year ahead of us. However, it is slowly getting better. It's not going to happen overnight. And, use an old graphics card, play some old games, read some books. There's lots of other ways to entertain yourself. Who knows, maybe you might be able to get an Xbox or PlayStation before you can get graphics cards. We'll have to see how that plays out as well. So that's the unfortunate part of the luxury of gaming. Listening to people complain they can't buy a graphics card is like listening to somebody complain they can't buy a yacht. I can't stand to hear it. I just don't want to hear somebody tell me about how miserable they are because they can't buy their yacht. I grew up having $1 a day, $1 a day I lived off of. And there are people as they get older that will tell you those days were better. We had more fun in those days than we do today. One of the questions I posted on my Twitter page a couple months ago was, we had arcades and we had like the Atari 2600 in the 80s. We didn't have cell phones, we didn't have TVs in our bedrooms or phones, most of us didn't. Whereas kids today, they have big screen TVs, cell phones that follow them everywhere they go. They're always connected. The games are incredible compared to what we had. And the question was, does that mean kids today are happier than we were as kids at their age when we had so much less? And it's not saying one is better than the other. It's just a philosophical wandering of my mind where I go, who was happier? Those of us who had less or those of us who have more? When you have more to stress about. People often refer to the past times as simpler times, when you weren't always nagged with an electronic beep or a screen. You weren't always connected and you weren't always stressed out with this constant connection. And there doesn't seem to be much in the way of self-discipline from voluntarily giving yourself a break from it, especially from children. There's a feeling that they're missing out if they don't constantly have it. And it's an addiction. I think it's like any other addiction. It becomes controlling and you no longer can exercise free will. You're being controlled by the machine. And when that sets in at an early age, the best I can hope for is that their children, when they have children, grow up to hate the phone because they're fighting for their parents' attention from the phone. And that generation will be more cognizant of the time they spend on the virtual world. But we'll see if I live long enough to see that happen. In the meantime, we have the choice to make for ourselves what's important and when. And I'm going to stay with the graphics cards are not important and gaming is not important, certainly not at that level that requires that kind of investment. And I will tell you, my attitude would be very different if I was wealthy. I'd just buy a graphics card. What do I care what it costs? Just buy it. The same person that would buy a luxury car thinks nothing of it versus, somebody who's scraping pennies together to just get some form of transportation. So based on how I was raised, I was scraping pennies together to buy, a $300 car back in the 80s. That's even the 90s. I think the most I paid for a car was maybe $800. That's all I could afford. And now used cars are selling for $30,000. And it's like, what? What's happening out there? So in any event, just a heads up with what we can expect this year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope things are going to be better. And excuse me just 1 second. I'm going to step away. I think I have a package delivery. Yeah, speaking of which, a couple of Corsair 200Rs just arrived, thank goodness. My business clients and many of my viewers are just like, we don't want any RGB. And finding them cases with no RGB, it's been frustrating. So I think I've got about 10 of them. And that'll hopefully get me through all of 2022, I hope. 2023, I don't know what I'm going to do. So if anybody's got any last questions for me, we'll go ahead and answer those now. I'm going to shut this off. But yeah, if you have any questions for me, go ahead and put it in the chat room, and I'll do my best to provide you an answer. Well, it looks like I missed a couple contributions. Let me give some shouts out and credit to these generous folks. Let's see what we have here. Jimmy Munoz with $5 says, I'm the same way. I don't want to go outside at the moment, and my midsection is shelling for it. Yeah, all of us, for sure. Thank you, Jamie. David Kane contributes $5. He said, I had one the other day come in running Windows Vista. I about fell over when I booted it up. Yeah, again, working as a tech in retail, man, you're going to have great stories, and it's going to make you a good tech. Tim Soul with $5 says, thanks, Kerry, for everything you do, and Happy New Year. Thank you, Tim. Happy New Year to you as well. Photo Ray, when he's talking about him doing the cable management, he says he fakes the patience required to do the cable management. Yeah, well, you're doing a good job. You got me fooled. Keep fooling me, please, because I don't want to do it. WJ contributes $5. He says, take my money, Kerry. Thank you, WJ. Michael Potter contributes $10. He goes, thank you, Kerry. You're the main reason I was inspired to start building my own computers again. Love it. Thank you so much. I love to hear that, and thank you for your support of the channel. Rakshit Patel with $4.99 says, Happy New Year, Kerry, and everyone. Hey, Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much. Zach wants to know if I have investments in Ethereum as well as Bitcoin. I do, yes. Andrzej Lackner says, I'm from Slovenia. Can I contribute? I don't know. I have no idea how that works. You could try. Michael Dane says he just gave away his 85th refurbished computer to a veteran and his family, and I thanked him for his service. And one of the best ways to help a computer, 24-inch monitor with a keyboard and mouse. Nice. Yeah, I agree. 24-inch to me that's about the starting size I recommend. Well, 22, 24. And then once you get above 32, it's too close. You have to sit further back, in my opinion. Hey, there's Madi Yoel. He contributes $5. He says, you got your $200. Yes, I did just now. Thank you, Madi. Andres says, this is true. You made me start with this work again also. I made you do it. Louise Harrison says, awesome. I was able this time to watch live. I watch a lot of your videos. Thank you, Louise. Glad to have you here. And we'll make Louise blue, I think. Can I do that? Ah, there it is. There you go. Make you blue. There at Jim Jam contributes $5. Says, Kerry, I've been watching you since 2013, and I have built so many computers because of your videos. Thank you a ton. Wow, you guys are super kind to me today. Thank you so much. What do I typically charge for a system that you sell to viewers? That's what Lester Evans wants to know. There's no typical charge. Basically, you're just going to pay for whatever the parts cost. And in some cases, I'll eat the shipping just to get it out of here, just to sort of I take a loss on it, which is really a terrible business idea. I was looking at Facebook Marketplace, and there's several people offering to build computers for people for $250 in labor, which is twice what I charge. That's the same price I've been charging since 2010. So I might need to go to 200, I think, for labor cost. But I'm not there yet, and I have a bunch of systems to sell. So it really depends on, which generation, which chip, how much RAM, how much storage, which case, what power supply. They start, I would say, around $700 and go up from there. William Lynn asks, Carrie, would a Dell XPS 13 or a Microsoft Surface be better for a college student? That depends on the student. Some students would prefer the XPS 13, while other students would prefer the Pro, the Microsoft Surface Pro. So really, it's like asking me what you should order at a restaurant off the menu. There's a lot of selections to make, and I don't think there's a bad one. But I think it's the decision that the person eating it has to decide for themselves. Ross Bittner contributes $5. Says, I drove through Slovenia in 2014 and it's beautiful. This is a contribution for Andre. Right on. Well, thank you, Ross. I'd love to go to Slovenia. Make sure Ross is blue in here as well. Lester says, all right, thank you. I watch you every chance I get. Computers have been my thing since I was a kid. Right on, Lester. Thank you for that. Dustin Fuller saying hello. Michael says to William, my sister has a Microsoft Surface and she loves it. It's your choice, though. Josh D1 wants to know how Lyle and Jimmy, the dogs, are doing. Dogs are great. Dogs are doing well. Thank you for asking. They're fat and happy. Joss Musin says, good work. Happy New Year. Thank you, Joss. Happy New Year to you as well. The Active Life says, what are your thoughts on a Dell Inspiron 15 series laptop? I ordered an i7 16 gigabyte 3501 system for general use, light Photoshop use, hopefully a good buy. For me, the Dell Inspirons, they're fine. I think they're good workhorse machines for getting work done. I have an XPS laptop myself. I wouldn't overpay for an Alienware. And if I wasn't doing video editing, I think I would probably make do with the Inspiron 15. The 17-inch screen on a laptop is too big, in my opinion, and the 13 is too small. So I think you're right down the middle there with the Inspiron. You're not spending a whole lot of money. It's probably under a $900 laptop. And for what you get for the money, I think it's a good value. And I buy Dells. I don't buy HPs for myself, just in case you were wondering. And you can make from that whatever you want to derive from that. Gold Seals Gold says, the Altair 8800 replica next to you, was it a kit you put together? You can buy it already assembled or as a kit. I think if you just type into Google, Altair 8800 replica, it should bring the site up. Let me know if I'm wrong. It should be that easy to locate it. When is the Microsoft Office video coming? Oh, that's a question people want to know. I was going to do an Office 2021 video, but I'm having some difficulty getting around the requirement to make a Microsoft account to activate it, even though it's not a subscription. So I might, because of time, I might end up just doing a 2019, download, install, and activate, because I do those all the time. The 2021, I just need more time, which I don't have right now, to get it worked on and figured out. There's always a way. I just have to figure out what it is. Sean Gallagher says, Carrie, I get more laptops than desktops in lately. If you're in repair, you're probably going to see more laptops for repair than desktops. There's more more is prone to break, and the end users are less likely to watch a video on how to fix it. So it makes sense that laptops are more prone to being dropped. They're far more expensive. If you spill something on your keyboard of your desktop, you can just go buy another keyboard in most cases. You spill something on your laptop, that's got to go in for repair. And the servicing them is far more complex, as I demonstrated in the video, than on any basic desktop. So that's perfectly logical. Surf in the Net Computer Repair says, Happy New Year, everyone. May it be prosperous for all. Let's hope so. Kokwai PA says, Carrie, thank you for all the information and knowledge you give us. Well, thank you. Glad you appreciate it. Lester says he's never had luck with Dell. Everyone he gets lasts about 2 years. Well, don't buy it because I told you to. If you don't like Dell, don't buy Dell. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just answering people's questions. It's always got to be somebody who's going to disagree with me. But, I'm just telling you, I buy Dells. I don't have problems with them. If I did, I wouldn't buy them. Your mileage may vary. Buy the one that you want to buy. This is one of the traps you get caught in on YouTube. Is somebody will ask you what you think is an innocent question, and it can end up starting an argument with people. Even if it's not starting out as an argument, it sort of ends one where people want you to qualify your answer, and it's ridiculous because it's offered for free and it's offered as an answer to a question about what I would do. I'm not telling you what you should do, and I think sometimes people misinterpret that. If I'm showing you how I apply thermal compound, I'm not telling you that's how you should do it. I'm saying here's how a real life 30-plus year computer technician applies thermal compound. And if you think you know better than that, well, don't let me get in your way. It makes no difference in my world. Michael Sahovsky contributes $10. He says, do you think it's wise to put money into an IBM ThinkPad T41? I'm not familiar with the ThinkPad T41. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I haven't seen a ThinkPad in years. Typically those Lenovo's, they're not IBM, they're Lenovo. And Lenovo, they've kept up the quality on them, but primarily for business use. You don't really see them used in gaming, and most home users don't want to spend as much as what a ThinkPad costs. So depending on what your budget is and what you're looking to get out of it and how you're going to use it, the answer may be yes, the answer may be no. These are individual decisions that the buyer has to make. It's your money, you've earned it, and it's up to you to decide what has value. I can't really tell you what has value to you. I can only tell you what has value to me. And when it comes to the ThinkPad line, I just haven't seen them. Nothing has been brought in here for at least 2 or 3 years that is a ThinkPad. So I'm not up to speed with how they're being built or any issues they might have. But, read the reviews on the model you're considering buying. And, if you buy somewhere like from Amazon or something or Costco where there's easy returns, you have some peace of mind that if you don't like it, you can send it back. I think that's probably the best approach. Be Active Life contributes $5 and says, thanks, Carrie. Hey, I can see what your name is this time. I couldn't really tell before, but now I understand. Thank you for the contribution. Thank you for your question. Lester wants to know what RAM is in the streaming system. That's the Trident Royal Z memory. It's some of the most expensive memory on the market, next to maybe Corsair Dominator. Might be about the same or more. But Corsair Dominator RGB and the Trident Royal Z RGB are the most expensive that I'm aware of DDR4 RGB RAM on the market. So if you really want to overpay, there you go. And Jason L. has a suggestion here. He says if you're on a budget, the off-lease The off-lease used Lenovo ThinkPads and Dell Latitude laptops are very good. I agree with that. Anything off-lease means it's been used in a business for probably 3 years, and that means that it had to accommodate the business needs for those 3 years. That's a hell of a burn-in test. So I wouldn't hesitate to buy an off-lease business-use laptop, because chances are you won't place it under the demands it was placed under when it was used in business. You likely won't travel with it as much, and you likely won't use it as much. So think of it like a very thorough test, quality control check for 3 years. And you're not paying for that quality control test, you're actually getting a discount. Yeah, I agree. Mark Leibowitz says, I suspect Mr. Sawofsky was asking about a very old laptop. There was an IBM ThinkPad T40 run around 2004 or 2005, and it was a solid laptop, very chunky by today's standards, that ran Windows XP. Well, I can't recommend anything that's a laptop that's more than 5 years old. Generally speaking, laptops have a lifespan of about 5 years. Home users may be able to squeak 8 years out of it. This is a very rare case where this laptop is already 8 years old, and in most cases, I would say don't put any money into it. But it doesn't have a scratch on it. It's barely been used, and with a solid-state drive and the added memory, that's it. That's as far as you can upgrade it. We're done with it. So this is very, very unusual that this customer will be able to get, probably 13, 14, 15 years, whatever it is by the time Windows 10 support ends. But as I mentioned, the battery is got a 10-minute lifespan. It's going to cost $100 for a battery, Unless you get one of those cheap batteries from China and it ends up burning your house down when you leave it plugged in overnight. Who knows? But this, as I said, this is an exception. In business, they won't keep laptops this long. And when you start dealing with older hardware, you'll start running into security issues. Unless you're a fan of Linux, in which case you can get the best of both worlds by not having to pay for an operating system and having something secure and supported. But it also requires a more technical mindset. And if you're of that more technical mindset, you wouldn't be asking me whether or not you should buy it, because you would already know the answer to that. So sometimes these questions go in loops. But in general, if a laptop is more than 5 years old, I certainly would not condone the purchase of that. And in fact, if you're using a laptop that's over 5 years old, I would say start looking for deals on laptops, because you're probably going to need one in the next year or two, statistically speaking. Michael says, Carrie, I just recently got my parents' business converted to ASUS after I was frustrated with all their HPs. All business-grade machines and all upgradable. Nice. I've seen a couple of the ASUS laptops and I was impressed. Damelin says, Linux is awesome. On one of my machines, I run Zorin OS. Yeah, it's awesome if you have a certain kind of brain. Most people don't have the kind of brain that's required to use Linux. Just to put it as simply as I can, it is not intuitive. It requires almost a critical thinking mindset that most people don't have. And it is very, very discouraging for people who lack that critical thinking mindset to achieve any sort of understanding of how it works. So there's a certain percentage of the population that think it's no big deal, and then there's this massive percentage of the population that looks at it dumbfounded and will never know how it works. They don't want to know. They don't have any interest in it. It just sounds like work. So bear in mind when people say things like that. Somebody might say they like oysters or caviar, but somebody else might find that to be the most disgusting thing you can imagine and couldn't afford to eat that anyway. So they're not going to, take every last bit of money they have to buy it, to try it. Because the worst thing that could happen is they find out they like it, and now they have to wonder how they can get more of it. Rich people problems. Linux isn't a rich person problem, but what it is it's a critical thinker's sort of prerequisite in understanding it in any reasonable time frame that doesn't require extreme focus and concentration. And it's just not for the masses. It's got to be severely dumbed down more than they've got it. But the technical people are also the people online the most. They're the most vocal people. So you'll hear a lot about Linux because the technical mindset that's required to understand Linux is also the same technical mindset that is the most vocal on using the internet, making YouTube videos, posting Reddit and things like that. So there's a disproportionate number of people talking about it online. You know, if you were an alien from another planet and you heard and you witnessed the amount of discussion about Linux online, you would think the vast majority of the population of human beings used and understood Linux. It's disproportionately represented online for the very reason that the technical people disproportionately use the internet more, or at least are more vocal on it to be heard. So they're a very loud minority. So bear that in mind. Don't let the idea that noise is not necessarily equal to volume. If that makes any sense. If you have a huge stadium filled with people screaming, that is not the same as one person or a group of people screaming, but they're screaming over and over and over and over again, trying to give you the idea they're a bigger crowd than what they really are. Their volume is much smaller, but they can make about as much noise to an untrained ear. Not that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing. It can be scientifically measured and shown as example. It's fact that we have some very loud minorities on the internet that give the impression that they're a much larger group of people. But the masses mostly consume on the internet. They don't create on the internet. And if you look at any YouTube video as an example of this, look at how many comments any video has and compare that to how many views that same video has. Any video you want. And look at about, as many of them as you want and figure out what the average is. You got 10,000 views, you might get 100 comments. So clearly, the people who leave comments are very teeny tiny little, like 1-2% of the total number of people who watch the video. Any final questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. It's about 7:30 in the evening here in Phoenix. And this isn't to say anything bad about Linux. This isn't to say anything about human behavior that's bad, just to help you identify it when you see it. That's all. Sometimes things are not what they appear to be. And if we can tune what we see and what we hear, we might be more accurately able to gauge what it is that we're looking at or that we're hearing versus being manipulated. Jim says 10 to 15 years ago, Linux was about 2% of the desktop market, and that hasn't really changed. In fact, it's actually less than 2% today. Yeah, it's mostly in the server market. Andrea says it's 3:35 in the morning in, was it Slovenia? So again, any final questions, we'll take them now and do my best to provide you an honest answer. It may not be the answer you want to hear. At the very least, it'll be my perspective. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. That's not required. Thank you for all the contributions. I hope I was able to shout out everybody who contributed during today's live broadcast. If you want to reach out about having a system built, like I said, I have a ton of parts here. I've got about 23 systems to get out. And if there just happens to be parts I have that align with your budget and your needs and you're in the United States, reach out to me. My email address is my name, Kerry@kerryholzman.com. Just look at my channel for the spelling, and I'll do my best to get back with you as quickly as I can. I get a ton of emails every single day, so when people reach out for free technical support, and they're people who are not contributors, and they're people that I don't know who they are, I get really upset that they think that they just don't value my time, or so I don't know what they're thinking. But if they want to actually, hire me, they want to buy something from me, of course, that's what a business does. I remember one time we we had a little old lady come into Best Buy. Best Buy had just opened in Phoenix. It was about 1991. And I think we were day 2 of opening, and she had this dusty old alarm clock, bedside alarm clock, like a clock radio. And she said, I bought this here and it stopped working. And I said to her, because I was at the electronics counter, I said, we just opened 2 days ago. So you couldn't have bought that here. You just by looking at it, it's clearly more than 2 days old. And she said, no, I bought it here. And I want to see a manager. No problem. I went and I got a manager. And then the manager walks away and talks to her, or I walked away, whatever. I don't know what was said. But then I see the manager giving her a new clock radio and taking her old one. So when that transaction was over, I think he handed it to me and told me to destroy it. I said, what are we doing? She didn't buy that here. He goes, that's good customer service. She'll be back. She'll know we took care of her. She'll come back again. Okay, if you can afford to do that. With Best Buy, you've got, I don't know how many employees we had in that one store, somewhere around 60 or 70 or 80 employees. But as a single self-employed businessman, and my time is very valuable, at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to help as many people as possible that have bought systems or are looking to buy systems. And when someone reaches out and they want to ask me a question, but they've never given me anything, but they're asking me for more, right? I've already given them content. I've already given them information. But now they want me to be more precise about the information. And it's like, well, you need to give me something now. Otherwise, I've already started. I've given you. And if you want me to give you some more, you need to give something back to me. And it seems to be a concept a lot of people just don't wrap their heads around. And so what I found is when I tell people, look, I've got paying customers waiting for me, then I get really angry responses. You can't tell me how to fix my computer. I've never seen your computer. I don't know anything about it. You haven't told me what your operating system is, what your motherboard is, what your processor is, how much RAM you've got, when the problem started, is this something you built? I got to be on the phone with you for an hour and a half. I don't have time for this. Now, if you're my customer, I do. And so it ends up, ironically taking even more of my time. So what I'm trying to tell you is if you send me an inquiry that has nothing to do with business, you probably won't get a response, because typically that just involves taking up more of my time, because every response gets a response. If I say, sorry, I can't help you, I don't do free support, then you have to say something back. And then I have to say something back. And then you have to say that. And I realize in the amount of time it's taking us to go back and forth about explaining to you why, I've already spent more time that I told you I didn't have much of. So I live in a world now where I have to hit the delete button and just act like I never got it, because I don't know what else to do. It's just common courtesy. I'm my only employee. This is it. Any work that gets done, I'm doing it. If I'm not doing it, it doesn't get done. And if you can imagine a channel with 56 million views and people from all over the world reaching out on Facebook and email and Twitter, it's like, what are they thinking? So, but at the same time, I do want to help my clients. I do want to help my viewers who are in the U.S. who can have the ability, who want to buy a machine. And I need to be able to separate those people apart from each other so I can know where serious business inquiries are. So those people who have money and are sincerely inquiring about a repair or a build have my time. And it gets really, really trying for me sometimes getting that balance. I guess in one way it's a good problem to have, but it can really spoil your day, you know, when you think you have a good day and then this communication comes from somebody who you never heard from and they start getting demanding, and it's like, you know, how many times do I have to tell you? And then it just goes sour, and then the rest of the day it's hard to get that out of my mind. So I just start deleting that stuff, man. It's the downside, I suppose. But, you know, bear in mind, if you're going to run a business, you're going to have tire kickers and time wasters that are going to come in and want to pick your brain, and they will suck you dry for everything you voluntarily surrender to them. So you kind of have to be a jerk to those people because they're kind of being a jerk to you. And it's a shame that we haven't evolved as a society as a whole to have that consideration for one another. As a result, no matter what you do, in somebody's eyes, you're going to be a jerk. And likely the more successful you are, the bigger a jerk you're going to be. But don't worry. Don't worry about that. As long as you're successful, as long as you're making ends meet and you're doing well, then you're doing that right. And those other people don't have a clue, so don't let them put you down or get you down. Nothing you can do about them putting you down. But boy, it can get really frustrating at times. Sometimes people can be very disparaging. And the least likely they are to have ever given you anything, and the more demanding they tend to be. So keep that in mind next time somebody's asking you for something. I love doing what I do, but when people demand more and they don't want to pay for it, that gets under my skin, if you can't tell. All right. Let's see. Carrie, did you ever have Bitlocker automatically activate after installing Windows 10? No, I have not. I'll tell you who knows a lot about Bitlocker is Mike Smith. And if you email Mike over at MikeTechShow.com, he would probably have more information on that. I've never heard of such a thing. I know what Bitlocker is, but I've never heard of it self-activating. I've never had a client ever call with that problem. I've never seen it. And this is the first time ever anybody's ever said such a thing to me. But maybe if somebody would know about that, it would be Mike Smith. John Williams says, Carrie, I had that happen to me the other day, question after question, and it was a total waste of my time. Yeah, you know, look, if you're in a classroom and you're paying me to be in my class, then you're paying me to answer your questions. If you're my customer and you've bought something from me, then I owe you explanations to things you might be uncertain of that you've purchased from me. If you want to buy something from me, but you have some questions prior to the purchase, without obligation, there's a certain amount of time I'm willing to invest, but after that time, I'm going to be like, okay, whatever it is you're buying, I'm not making enough money on it to keep you on the phone this long, because if this is the conversation we're having before the purchase, I can just imagine what it's going to be after the purchase. Like if that's how demanding you are now, I can just see how demanding you're going to be after you buy something. So a lot of times those are red flags I've learned to watch out for. I'm looking for people who appreciate what I do and value what I do. And for those who don't, they can do it themselves. I don't have a problem with that either way. But when people argue with me to get me to work for them for free, we're going to fight. Tech Ninja says, that's great life business advice. Yeah, I wish somebody had told it to me 30 years ago. I could have used it. Brad Rebels mentioning something about, oh sorry, that was Larry Wood mentioning a BIOS battery. I failed to acknowledge that when I had this apart the first time, I checked the BIOS battery and it was 100% full. So I don't know how that's possible. It was like a brand new battery. But yes, if you've got to open a laptop like this, either check the battery, or if you don't have a battery tester, just replace it. They're a couple bucks, get it done, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go through all of that disassembly or have the customer bring the machine back to you for a repair, because they're going to blame you for it because you're the last one who opened it. And it could just be a BIOS battery that, is causing the problem. And in a way, the customer's right. That's something you should have looked for while you were in there. And I took that for granted when I opened this up. I failed to mention, the BIOS battery on any laptop is generally a big job to get at it. So if you've got to open it up anyway, check it or just replace it if you don't have a battery tester. They're cheap and they're simple to replace. But it'll be a pain in the butt to have to take it back apart again, even if it's your own laptop, just for a battery. Tech Ninja says, I do minor tech support at my work, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Gary. It's appreciated. Yeah, I'm not making it up. It's unfortunate, but comes with the territory. Josty1 says, I only have clients that respect me, otherwise they're not my clients. Right on. I like that. Michael says, Bitlocker did that to me too on my Asus laptop, and I don't mind it being on because I want it on, but I can see the issue it causes to some. Well, make sure you back up that Bitlocker key. Be sure to get a backup of that. Abdul Azim Patel says, Windows print spooler is not working on a Canon MG3623 in1 printer via USB. I did have services.msc tried to start the service, but it says window scan not start on local machine. I don't know about that one, Abdul. I would probably Google that and see if other people are having that problem. Aaron says, you should help me for free because of exposure. Nobody says that to me because I have my own exposure, like far more than they do. If somebody is as big or bigger than me on YouTube, and they will offer me exposure, sure, we could work out a deal where I work for free. That's never happened. So that argument or that debate doesn't work with me because of the size of the channel already. It's already of a size that very few other channels can offer me a fair exposure in exchange unless they're my size or bigger. Michael says he backed up his Bitlocker key on a flash drive. Right on. Good job. Clean My Kicks says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. John Williams wants to know if a BIOS update is the same on a laptop as it is on a desktop. A little different in most cases. HP and Dell, for example, and I can't speak for other manufacturers, but I imagine they're all pretty much the same. They have their own update utility in the start menu. So go to, if it's HP, go to the H's, or if it's Dell, go to the D's in your start menu, and you should see a Dell update or HP update utility. That's going to not only update the proprietary software from the manufacturer, but also drivers, as well as any BIOS updates that are available all through the one update utility. And it's very slow. And now BIOS updates are starting to be offered through Windows Update, specifically for laptops. And I've seen that happen on a bunch of new Dells, which is nice. So you can still get it through the Dell utility, or you can get it automatically through Windows Update, which is a great idea because most people don't run their manufacturer's utility. If you have a Dell desktop or an HP desktop, those utilities exist on those desktops as well. So because they're manufacturers, they're I'm trying to think what the word is. They're not just selling you a motherboard, but you're getting the whole system. They generally have their own utilities to update sound drivers, video drivers, network drivers, chipset drivers, BIOS updates. All that happens through that utility, but you have to run it. Anthony Wilson says, I built several computers for Christmas. Parents expected me to work Christmas Day and to set up the computers. Even though I provided instructions, I ended up turning my phone off. That's what you have to do. Just turn the phone off. Or just do what I do and put it on Do Not Disturb. And then it doesn't ring or beep And then you can just casually look at your phone whenever you feel like it to see if you've missed any calls. You don't have to turn the phone off. Do not disturb is the best feature a cell phone ever had, and more people should learn how to use it because it'll take a lot of stress out of your day. You don't have to check the phone when it beeps. You can check the phone when you want to check the phone. It should be a slave to you, not the other way around. Jim says, with only 300 subs, even I don't work for free. Look, I do work for free for some people, certainly for the veterans, for certain individuals, but that's not decided on a whim. That's decided after I get to know somebody and I'm willing to go a certain distance for that person for whatever reasons. I think Michael Dane understands what I'm saying. I'm just looking at a computer case I've got here on the floor, and it looks, oh, never mind. It looked like one of the thumb screws was crooked, but it turns out it was just a piece of the plastic hanging off the side of it. It was distracting me. JJ Mans 1982 says, will I have any issues with my integrated graphics on my HP laptop if I put on 2 more monitors? I don't know, you have to try it, let me know. Maybe Google your laptop make along with the fact you want to add monitors to find out. It varies from one laptop to the next. Is CDK Deals not selling Windows anymore? You need to look at my video notes. The website has changed. So if you look at the notes on this video, you'll see it is no longer CDK Deals. It is VIP-CDKdeals.com. I'm not sure why the change happened, but you need to update your bookmarks. George Mewson with a $5 contribution. Thank you. Sorry, Joss. Thank you, Joss, for your contribution. Bob Connor said, if I hadn't checked my phone when it beeped, I would have missed this video or most of it. Well, that is a consequence, but if you were driving in the car and your phone beeped because my video went live and you looked down and then veered into an oncoming car, I would feel terrible if I found out that's what happened to you. So, there's a time and a place where turning the beeping on is a good idea, and there's a time and a place where turning the beeping off is a good idea. The problem that I see is no one ever turns it off. I think people don't know how to turn it off, or they're afraid they're going to miss something. Mark Baggett said he has his phone on Do Not Disturb most of the time, and it's a great feature. That's what I'm saying. There are times where I will turn my phone on, and I'm like, okay, the phone's on, call me, and then nobody calls, and I'm like, I'm available if people want to call. I don't say it, but I'm saying it to myself, and then nothing. And then, I don't know, I go outside, walk to the mailbox, come back in, it says you missed a call. I'm like, really? So, in that case, it didn't matter if the phone was on Do Not Disturb or not. I left it on the coffee table, and then I come back and check it, and yeah, you missed a call. I don't know. People have a way of doing that, I might wake up because the phone rang. It's a tech support call. And I've got to sort of wipe the sleepy dust from my eyes. It's one of my retainer clients. I can't put them on Do Not Disturb. They can get through it. Sort of somber over to my laptop and remote in so I can take a look at what's going on. And then by the time I'm done, I'm not sleepy anymore. So then I thought, well, all right, I'll have a little breakfast, see who else calls. No one else calls. I jump in the shower, stick my foot in the water. Well, more than that, I'll get completely submerged in the water, having drenched, and then I can hear the phone ringing. And I'm like, I don't know who that is, but they just picked the worst possible time to call me. And it'll just have to wait. Thankfully, I'm not a heart or brain surgeon. I'm not a trauma surgeon on call for the emergency room. So people will just have to wait. As being a self-employed person, It's just part of what comes with the territory. And when you get clients who are that demanding, where they're like, I called you 15 minutes ago. You're like, yeah. That's why I have a 4-hour service level agreement. I have 4 hours to return your call. And that's the way most businesses that do manage support. You have to manage it. So I'm not sitting around looking at my phone going, ring, come on, baby, ring. I got other things to do. So, yeah, usually the phone's on Do Not Disturb in the wee hours of the morning, but I do have people that are favorites where the Do Not Disturb doesn't affect them. They can still get through, and it'll still ring the phone. It'll still wake me up. But they pay me for that. So, obviously there's exceptions. Winston Liu contributes $5 Canadian. He says, Happy New Year from Van City, Canada. Well, thank you, Winston. Thanks for your contribution. There's a name I can't pronounce. It says, Carrie, I have a problem with my new HP ProBook. Mute button does not work. I cannot mute or unmute the microphone. Tried Google, reinstall drivers, but nothing worked. Can you help? Well, if it's new, then you should have support either from the manufacturer or from the place of purchase. If I were you, if the mute doesn't work, I would send it back and exchange it for another one. I wouldn't waste any time working on something that's brand new. If I bought a brand new car, it wouldn't start. I'm not going to ask somebody to help me get it started. I'm going to call the place that profited from selling it to me, and I'm going to have them come pick it up and fix it, and have them do it quickly, or just give me my money back so I can go buy a car that works. So that's the advantage you have when you buy anything new. You should not have to do any repairs. You should contact either the place you purchased it from or the manufacturer, both of which profited by selling it, and figure out how to get that resolved, whether that's a return, a refund, or a repair. Nedrick Bowes contributes $10 and says, Carrie, I'm grateful for the professional impact you have on so many people in the world. 9 years ago, I studied all your videos via your awesome content and built multiple PCs, and your word is number one. Hey, Nedrick, I appreciate that, and thank you for the contribution. I, constantly are battling people who want to argue, but I can't find anything about those people to understand why their argument should be considered seriously when they have no reputable or recordable history online that I can verify anything they're telling me regarding their history. In other words, when somebody is telling me they disagree with me, very, very rarely do they ever take a minute to introduce themselves, explain who they are, and offer some verification that they have the experience or education they claim to have. And so it's taken a while to figure this out, right? So when somebody wants to compliment me and say they value what I do, that's wonderful. I don't need to verify who you are, what your background or experience are, because you're not challenging me. But it's so disappointing when people think they can challenge another person when the other person has a verifiable history. I've got books on Amazon you can buy. I've got articles you can look up at Tom's Hardware and Smart Computing and PC World Magazine. I've been published in trade magazines and computer magazines and online for years and years. There's a Wikipedia article about me, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole Wikipedia article about leaking capacitors, the whole Y3K issue, all of this stuff that justifies who I am and how long I've been doing this. That doesn't mean I know everything, but it means that I come with a certain perspective and I come with a certain experience. And my experience is uniquely mine, and it may not match up, to somebody else's experience. I don't know why they think it should, but it's so frustrating to put something out for free and have somebody complain about it when they have nothing. That they can't say, well, my free content is better than your free content. No one's ever said that before. Never in the history of this channel. It's never been said. The people who complain have no content, universally 100%, but complain about mine. And it's a sad, sad world that we live in that people get off on that, If you can't support somebody, just get out of their way. There's no reason to add to their burden. Life is hard enough, you know? So when folks like you make a contribution, you have nice things to say, you appreciate what I do, I wish every viewer was like you. We have a lot of folks that are blue here in the chat room. In fact, we'll make sure you're blue as well. And these are people that have proven themselves to be kind and supportive. You don't have to agree with me, you know, that's not required. Just be kind and supportive. They're not mutually exclusive. Those can be, you can disagree without being challenging, you know, or without being accusational. So many people want to demonize. They're so quick to be judgmental. And they don't like it when it's done back to them. Weird how that works, huh? So thank you. I appreciate you very much. Patrick Manny says, Happy New Year to Carrie and all in chat. Hey, Patrick, Happy New Year to you. There's LRCX in the chat room. He says, good evening, Carrie and chat. Just got home and see you're live. Yeah, we're just wrapping it up here, LRCX, but glad to see you here. Andres says, you have a certain mindset. I do. Life will do that to you. All of our life experiences are different. The environment you grew up in, the types of friends you had, the types of parents you had, you know, the kind of family you grew up in, a wealthy family, a poor family, a middle-class family, the type of school you went to, the way your fellow peers treated you, where you worked and how you were treated by your employers. It all stacks up year after year after year, and it will inevitably have an effect on your mindset. So I don't expect anybody in the world will have the same experiences I have, not universally. However, I think that those challenging experiences are important to share for two reasons. One, it tells people you're not alone if you're experiencing anything similar. It's not just you. And two, no matter what, you get through it. It's an obstacle. You will overcome it if you decide you're going to overcome it. If you give up, you're done, right? But either way, it's your choice. What was it, Henry Ford? Was it Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. So I'm hoping to inspire people because I'm extraordinarily stubborn. If there's one thing you should know about me, I'm going to see something through no matter how long it takes. It'll get done, and I will get it done. And I don't care if it costs me 3 times more for me to figure out how to fix it than to buy a new one. Because if I told somebody I was going to fix it, I'm going to fix it. And if I have to pay all that money in parts, if I keep buying parts and parts and parts, that's one of the best schools you'll ever go to in your life. You're going to remember that, and the knowledge you will gain from that is priceless. And the customer is going to be so impressed because, you know, I get computers brought to me all the time that other people gave up on, and the customers are like, this is it, man. I mean, I'm giving it to you because I've heard if anybody can fix it, it's you. And every single time I fix it, every single time. Not necessarily quickly, but, you know, like this laptop. Failed to hook up the sound speaker. But thankfully, I noticed it before it went back to the customer. Like I said, he's an hour and a half round trip away from me, so he wouldn't be too happy having to bring it back. I wouldn't be too happy having to adjust my schedule to make more time for it. So, you know, that's all part of the quality control, that I'm just checking everything. The USB ports work. Does the touchpad work? Do the buttons work? I want to make sure everything I hooked up ribbon cables for is working. Make sure the Wi-Fi still works. Everything I took off and put back on, I need to check. Run memtest 86 on it. Make sure the RAM I installed is all verified as good. And don't forget to put that license on for Malwarebytes and activate it the day the customer is coming so he gets the full 365 days. If I put it on today and he doesn't pick it up till next week, he's going to get a week less. And he may never notice that, but for me, I pay attention to all that stuff. So it's all about stubbornness and seeing it through. And if you do that over and over again, at least in my case, the lessons I've learned for it make me a better tech, and it doesn't take me as long the next time. In fact, quite the opposite. If I ever have another one of these come in, if there just so happens another customer calls, and it tends to happen all at once, but if a customer calls with another one of these laptops, I can do this job in about 20 minutes now. This took me 2 days. Now it'll take me 20 minutes. And they'll think, wow, you're an amazing tech. Because they won't know I struggled with it for 2 days. But because I struggled with it for 2 days, I won't soon forget it. It's true. It's the way life is, man. Joseph Winterhalter says, Carrie, check email later. The usual will be arriving later. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate you, man. Johnny 5 says, I help friends and family out for free by nagging them to stay current on updates and pointing out egregious privacy settings. Just doing my part. Yeah, well, I mean, it's really doing it for you, though, right? Because if they don't do that, it's going to be more work for you to fix it later than it is for you to just tell them to do it now. I hate when people try to fix a problem. They don't call me because they don't want to bother me. And they make the problem 3 or 4 times worse. And what could have been a 5-minute fix becomes a 3 or 4 hour fix because I have to untangle all the knots they created. Now, I'm not opposed to people wanting to fix their own computers. That's obviously what I'm encouraging here. However, when I have a client who's paying me and they're not calling me, that upsets me. First, it upsets me because they think they're bothering me. They're paying me. As long as they're paying me, they're not bothering me. The second thing is the fact that when they make a problem worse, they should check with me first. Hey, Carrie, I'm having this little problem. I don't want to bother you with it. Is it something you think I could fix myself? Now, if I say, yeah, just do this and send them a link, and it gets worse, it's my fault. But if I say, no, I don't want you messing with it, let me know when I can take a look at it. Let me decide that. And I can save the customer a lot of time and a lot of money if they'll let me. Manas Patani contributes 20, what is that symbol? I gotta look this up. Rupee, Indian rupees. 20 Indian rupees is about 27 United States cents. So thank you for the contribution. Hey, listen, it all adds up. Let me tell you something. If every viewer gave me 25 cents, 27 cents, I'd have my Tesla. I don't know why I want a Tesla. It's just a status symbol. That's my running joke. If I ever get a Tesla, I'm going to have to come up with another line, huh? Thank you for the contribution, and thank you for your support. Photo Ray says, I might agree to disagree, but I won't disagree that I'm right. Rockman Gibson said, I love the channel. I'm doing chemo and watching to learn. Hey, I'm glad you're doing the chemo. Make sure you... I know so many people that... Well, I don't know a ton of people, but I know some people who wouldn't do it, and they're not around anymore. So when I hear somebody's having chemo, of course, my thoughts are out to you, and I'm glad that you're getting it done, because that's what's going to have you cancer-free and healthy. You kind of go through a little bit of crap, but it's worth it. So I'm glad I can keep you distracted while you're enduring that. And I'm sorry that you're having to endure it, but I hope I can get your mind off of it for a little while. Nedrick says, sometimes when I drink a Coke, I think of Carrie. I wish Coke was paying me, man. Let me tell you. I could have a fleet of Teslas with that Coca-Cola money. Life is Good says, I'm from the UK, but love this guy. Secretly, I might be British. I love everything UK. I watch a lot of British television. I never let a Christmas or New Year's go by without the latest Mrs. Brown's Boys. I was watching Top Gear and, was watching Doctor Who in the 80s. Fish and chips, everything British. I love, I don't know what it is. I'm just drawn to it. I had a Mini Cooper for about 8 years. Anything British, I'm all over it. So it's not surprising to me that I have a lot of British love on this channel. But someday I hope to make it to Great Britain, especially Wales. I really want to see Wales, and Ireland and Scotland and London. Just those few places. Isle of Man. Just a few. Tech Ninja said, I recently got a new M.2 drive for my home computer and used Carrie's old video from 3 years ago for technical help. That's why it's there. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Frank Jimmy says, Carrie, have a Carrie Coke and a smile. Come see Dorset. If I could vacation anywhere in the world, the Cotswolds is where I want to go. That looks amazing. Maybe someday. It's a bucket list thing, Get a thatched roof cottage in the Cotswolds for a week or so and just live out there with the rolling green grass and the sheep and the horses and just nothing. You walk down to the village pub. Someday. Dorset and, what is there? Essex and Stoke-on-Trent and all these other places that come to mind. I would love to see the entirety of the UK, but obviously that'll never happen. Even go into like Liverpool, seeing where the Beatles are from, and and Blackpool. And there's all these other places that seem like they would be very interesting to visit. So many cities. But anywhere I go, I'll be happy to be there, wherever it is. Gaming 44 says, I've been to the Caribbean. It's beautiful. Yeah, I've been to the Caribbean. Oddly enough, or coincidentally, I was on the Isle of Anguilla, which is a British isle. I didn't know that until I was there, but beautiful, beautiful. And right next to St. Martin, which is half Dutch. And wow, just a much slower pace of life there, much more relaxed. A lot more money, but much more relaxed. I never heard so much Bob Marley in my life. Go to 221B Baker Street, right? Sure. Or 10 Downing Street. Come to Slovenia, we have a lot of countryside and it's cheap. Oh, and sheep, sorry. It's Slovenia and Slovakia. There's a couple right in that area, I want to say, that just look amazing. Yeah. Even seeing Poland and so many European countries. My ancestry is from Hungary and Portugal. So those are two places I'd like to go as well. I'd love to see Italy, for that matter, and Germany, and Switzerland, and Finland, and Norway, and Denmark. Yeah. I think if I was rich, I'd spend a year traveling, and then I think I'd be sick of it. One of my customers goes to Zurich all the time. He says, Kerry, you ever been to Zurich? And I said, no. He goes, you have to go. I know you, and you would love Zurich. And I said, great, but I can't afford it. He goes, I've got miles. I'll give you the miles, and you can have them. You can fly there for free. I said, I can't accept that. I said, first of all, I'm not going by myself. I said, second of all, I still have to pay for a rental car. I don't know how to drive out there. I'm going to pay for a taxi, something. I said, you know, it's a very generous offer, and I appreciate it very, very much, more than you'll ever really, more than I can convey. But I cannot take you up on that offer. But when the time is right and if I can afford it, you know, I'll go on my own dime and with company, and I appreciate the recommendation because he does know me, and he knows there are certain places I'm not going to like, and he said, yeah, you're going to love Zurich. I said, okay, good to know. John Williams says he's been to Puerto Rico several times, to Key West. I've never been to Puerto Rico, but I take it back. Does it count if the plane landed in San Juan for changing planes, a layover? I don't think it counts. I did the dumbest thing. I was in Puerto Rico, and you can get rum without any duties, right? So it's a little cheaper. So I think I bought like 3 bottles of rum, and it's heavy. That was so stupid, to save a couple of bucks. And then I asked if I could buy any Puerto Rican currency. And the person thought I was asking about like current events. So she's pointing me to a newspaper stand. So I walk over to the newspaper stand and I said, I'm collecting currency from around the world. I even have some French francs, even though they're not worth anything. It's just kind of cool to have money from all over the world. And I said, can I get, I don't know, like, can I exchange $1 for some Puerto Rican money? And she's like, we use the dollar. I go, well, I know you use the dollar, but like in the Caribbean, they had the Eastern Caribbean dollar, they had the American dollar, and they had another currency. There were 3 forms of currency they used on Anguilla. I don't know if it was British pounds, but I said, I know you use American currency, but before the American currency, before Puerto Rico got involved in the United States, didn't you guys have your own currency? And she says, I don't know. I mean, my whole life, we've only used American currency. I've never seen anything but that. And I said, I'm an idiot. Forgive me, I'm American. Just shuffled away quietly. Oops. Bob Connor said, you should come to my house in Michigan. I know you'd love my house. Wait, no you wouldn't. Never mind. You know what? The weather here has been pretty chilly, Bob. And Bob's up there in northern Michigan. And I know it's cold. And I think you're by the lake, too, which probably adds a little bit more a chill factor. But, you know, I walk around Phoenix, not often, but when I do, people are all bundled up. I'm out like this. It's like, what was it the other day? 57 degrees Fahrenheit? And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a little brisk, but as long as you're moving. I mean, I guess if you're standing still, it'll get cold, but I'm walking, I'm doing something. And if I have a jacket on, it gets too hot. At 57 degrees. So, Bob, I'm sure if it's down in the 30s or 20s there, it's not bad. When it drops below 10 and starts moving into negative numbers, then it's getting a little cold. But it's funny because you can tell who's from Arizona and who isn't. You know, today I was driving earlier and I had the windows down. Nobody had their windows down. Some cars have like a little bit of it down so they can blow the smoke from their cigarette out the window. I just thought it was a beautiful day. What was it, 59? I don't remember. Like right now it's 52. It's not terrible. It's a little chilly. But like I said, if I put my jacket on, it gets too hot. .37 degrees in Chile, which is burning. Yeah, I'm talking Fahrenheit. Bob Connor says in northern Michigan he's got about 5 inches of snow expected over the next few days. Yeah, here we had a solid week of rain, and that never happens. Never. I can't remember the last time it's rained like 5 to 6 or 7 days in a row. But it's good because we've had that water shortage, we've had that drought. So that's going to help. And it also knocks all the dust out of the air. It makes the air a lot cleaner to breathe. But the idiots don't know how to drive in the wet, here in the desert. They think it's okay to do 90 on the freeway with tires that are bald. And so the accidents just pile up because they're just morons. And of course, I will be one of those morons when I have to learn how to drive in snow when I go back to Michigan. I'm going to have to figure it out. But I guarantee I won't be doing 90 in it. I tell you that right now. 52 degrees Fahrenheit, yes, right now, yeah. Captain Blinsky 58 says today in southwestern Pennsylvania, it's a cold, sunny. The mountain gap is gorgeous. John Williams says a 28-degree Fahrenheit high in Madison, Wisconsin today. I was outside without a winter jacket. I'm telling you. If you're just going outside to check the mail or something, who cares? But it's just amazing to me to see these people all bundled up like it was 28 degrees when it's, in the 50s. I'm like, 50s is pretty decent. It's a little bit chilly, but it's really not that bad. At least not in Arizona. Andre says it's 11 degrees Celsius in Slovenia. Yeah. And 35 degrees Fahrenheit in Ohio, says Ninja Mason, right on Lake Erie. John F. says it's supposed to be getting about 5 to 10 inches of snow tonight in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Josty 1 says 32 degrees Fahrenheit in Illinois. The MLG Turtle wants to know what I think about the upcoming Ryzen 7000 CPUs. I don't really have any thoughts about anything upcoming because so much changes between what they say they're going to come out with and then what they eventually do come out with, along with pricing and availability. That also factors into my decision. I'm optimistic and hopeful. That's about all I can tell you. David Evans said, Carrie, I'm getting a blue screen saying clock watchdog timeout on my 7-month-old system. Already changed. Confirmed bad RAM and all drivers are up to date. Could this be a faulty CPU? Well, David, that's a good question. It's possible that your bad RAM caused it. So if you did have bad RAM, it could have corrupted some files on the hard drive requiring a fresh, clean install of Windows to replace those damaged files. That's possible. Having a bad CPU or a bent pin in the socket is possible. Having a power supply acting flaky is possible. There's a lot of what's possible. And in a problem like that, that's one of those things that sometimes you just got to have it on the bench, at least for me anyway, and run it through a barrage of tests. I've got to be able to reproduce the problem. And, that leads me in the direction to what corrects it. Of course, if others in chat have suggestions, feel free to speak up and offer your suggestion in the chat, because that can be a fun one to diagnose. Frank Jimmy says, I'm originally from New York. Driving in snow is not so bad. Ice, now that's a different story. You get these drivers in their 4-wheel drive SUVs that think they're invincible. 4-wheel drive does not mean 4-wheel stop. Well, 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive are two very different things. 4-wheel drive is what you want when you're towing something heavy, or perhaps you want to climb over some unpaved terrain. All-wheel drive is what you want in water, in snow, in ice. All-wheel drive, which basically every Subaru, I think Audi was the first one that kind of came out with that whole all-wheel drive system. Now it's not all that uncommon for every manufacturer to offer all-wheel drive, but it's still not a magic, solution to just drive however you want to on ice and water and snow, but it certainly makes it easier. Larry Wood says, say Hey to the boys, Carrie. Yeah, I will see them tomorrow. Wednesdays, I generally run a lot of errands on Wednesdays, and tomorrow, being Wednesday, I have a lot of errands to run, and I'll see the dogs. I made some chicken the other day. It didn't turn out very good, so I've got it in a Ziploc bag, and they're not gonna mind. They're not gonna think it doesn't taste as good. They're gonna love it. I don't waste food here. As long as I have the dogs, yeah, they love it when I don't waste food. Jason says, I'm a mechanic, but your 3 things to be a computer tech video was really motivating me to do some work for people. I've built and rebuilt my PC several times with your videos, and thanks for the help. Right on, Jason. That's cool. What about all the people that were stuck on the highway for days in their cars? Yeah, that would just happen, right? It was Virginia. They weren't stuck for days. They were stuck for, I think, for one day. But still, if you're not planning to go on a long trip, you just need to get on the freeway. You don't bring bottles of water and snacks. I mean, we can live, obviously, for 24 hours without food or water. That's not a big deal for most of us. However, there are people that are diabetic and need insulin and things like that, and you hope they have enough with them, because that could be a real emergency. Yeah, what do you do? What do I like best, Samsung SSD or Crucial SSD? I like Crucial best for the price, and I like Samsung best for the quality, performance, and that Samsung Magician software. I like them both, but for different reasons. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. I went a full hour. Last I mentioned I would take any more questions was about an hour ago. So I think we've had a good catch up here. Thanks for joining me, and in a way, I'm glad I had to take this back apart so I could show you how complex this is, and for no good reason. Like I said, the folks at HP could have added a couple little access panels down here. Would have been no big deal. And they do make laptops where they offer that. It's not a foreign concept to them. And the irony is that the cheaper the laptop is, and this was a cheap laptop when it was new, it's only an i3, it only had 4 gigs of RAM. The cheaper the laptop is, the less likely it's easily serviceable or upgradable. And it's ironic because those are the ones that are most likely going to need service or upgrades. I don't know how much it adds to the cost to put a couple access stores here. The RAM is right here. Hard drive is right. Is it there? Yeah, it's over here, opposite of the DVD drive. So it just drives me crazy. But this customer should be very happy. It should be just like they've got a brand new computer. I guarantee this computer has never run this fast during the entire ownership. So this customer is going to be like, I just got a new computer. It used to take a good 2.5 minutes before you get to the Windows logon screen, and now it's there in about 20 seconds. So it's so much better than it was. And then that McAfee software really bogged it down, taking that off of there and all the remnants, getting that out of there. He had some kind of web root, something was in there. Took all that out of there, put the Malwarebytes on it. Before I'm done, I'll activate Malwarebytes with a 1-year license. And like I say, about $190 is what I'll charge for this job. It's underpriced, but I think it's a fair price for a machine that isn't worth much to begin with. There's a couple of variables I have to take into consideration when I charge a customer, or whether or not I'm going to even agree to do the work. Because if I'm not willing to bring the price down, then I'm not going to do the job. For someone to pay $400 to do this job, that's about what this laptop sold for. Doesn't make any sense. So because the customer was willing to drive it out and pick it up, like I said, that saves me 3 hours of just being in the car. And driving in Phoenix is not fun. It's overcrowded. There's a lot of road construction. There's often accidents, even though it's a beautiful day with no rain, and people just don't pay attention. I don't know what they're doing, or they're intoxicated. I don't know. But then whenever it happens, the freeway backs up, and then you're just stuck. And what should be a half an hour drive turns into an hour drive. And it's maddening because I'm stuck in the car and I've got work to do. So the fact that he was willing to drop it off and pick it up, and to be honest, I was kind of getting tired of doing the builds, and I was kind of craving something different. Be careful what you ask for. And overall, like I said, I got a video out of it after all, and I'm glad I can show it to you. And it's something to watch for if you're buying a laptop. Maybe look at some videos of the laptop you're thinking of purchasing to see if anybody's got a disassembly video or a hard drive or RAM upgrade video, so you can see if that's an easy or a complicated thing. My Dell XPS, super easy to work on it, super easy. You take the back off, everything's there. Now, it's not as easy as having the little access doors, but it's not really that much harder. And I was grateful this did have the 2 RAM sockets, because the guy with the same model of laptop only had 1 RAM socket. So, with these HPs, or with any laptop, make sure you look at the difference. If there's a slight little different number or letter in the model name, it could differentiate what's inside the laptop significantly. And generally speaking, a good rule is you get what you pay for. So if something is really, really cheap, it's probably because it's really, really cheap. And don't expect too much from it. You'll be happy with your purchase if your expectations are aligned with what you're paying, generally speaking. So thanks for all the contributions. Thanks for everybody who has hung out in the chat room with me today, and for all of your kind words. What a great way to kick off 2022. I appreciate the supportive and kind words more than you can possibly imagine, and still have some PTSD from the terror of the comments section. But if we can keep going like this, I can get over it much quicker. So thank you so much. Thank you for encouraging me. And I hope I will see you all again in the next video. I don't have anything planned tomorrow, but I have about 17 or 25,000 videos to make. I've told you a million times never to exaggerate. I've got a lot of videos to make, and I just don't have the time. So right now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have time Wednesday or Thursday, but I will try. And if I do, it will be in the evening. Friday, Mitch is back, as always, 1 o'clock Arizona time, which is 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time, as it is every single Friday here. You can find me live. And we generally have builds to do, and we have a lot of them to do. And if you're interested in buying any of those builds, if you see something on the channel you want, let me know. You can get a good idea of what the costs are by simply adding up what the cost of parts are at Newegg or Amazon, is usually where I'm buying the parts. And as long as you're willing to pay me for the parts, and remember, Arizona has a nearly 10% sales tax. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I might be desperate enough to get rid of it at a slight financial loss, but I would hope that you would support me and you wouldn't want me to see me keep taking losses. It's not a good business model. I'm going to lose money on everything until I'm out of business. On the other hand, if, money's tight and I can help you out, if we can make that work out, I'd love to sell you one. You've got to be in the United States. So, thank you again for watching. I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Happy 2022. Happy New Year. And let's hope that we have a much better year than last year. And don't expect everything to get better overnight, but let's just slowly progress and not degress. And if we can do that, if not, let's still try anyway, okay? I'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.